1. We're diving into a classic beauty that's up for grabs on Craigslist. Get ready to feast your eyes on a 1967 Chrysler New Yorker, and boy, does this ride have some stories to tell. First off, let's talk about the price. This gem is going for a cool $5,500, which might seem like a pretty penny, but trust me, it's worth every dime. The seller claims the car is in excellent condition, and from what I can see in the ad, it looks like they're not pulling any punches. Under the hood, you'll find a beefy 440 4-barrel engine that's ready to roar. With 8 cylinders of raw power, this New Yorker is no slouch on the road. The odometer reads just 85,000 miles, which is pretty impressive for a car that's been around for over 5 decades. The interior is where this car really shines. The seller boasts a beautiful interior that's sure to turn heads. From the photos, it looks like the upholstery is in great shape, and the overall aesthetic is just oozing with vintage charm. Now, let's talk about the exterior. The paint color is a stunning green that's sure to make this New Yorker stand out from the crowd. The seller claims there's no rust on this Central Oregon car, which is a huge plus. Rust can be a real killer for classic cars, so it's great to hear this one has been spared. The title status is clean, and the transmission is automatic, making this car a breeze to drive. It's a sedan, so there's plenty of room for you and your crew to cruise around in style. Overall, this 1967 Chrysler New Yorker seems like a real winner. The seller's description paints a pretty picture, and the photos back it up. If you're in the market for a classic car with a ton of character, this might just be the ride for you. But hey, don't just take my word for it. If you're serious about making this New Yorker your own, be sure to go check it out in person. Kick the tires, take it for a spin, and make sure everything checks out before you sign on the dotted line. And there you have it, folks. A 1967 Chrysler New Yorker that's ready for a new home. Who knows? Maybe you'll be the lucky one to give this classic beauty a new lease on life. 2. We've got a real treat for you on Craigslist. Get ready to feast your eyes on a 1975 Oldsmobile Toronado, a true classic that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. First things first, let's talk about the price. This beauty is going for $8,000, which might seem like a hefty sum, but trust me, it's worth every penny. The seller claims the car is in excellent condition, and based on the description, it sounds like they've put a lot of love and care into this ride. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 455 engine paired with an automatic transmission. This Toronado is a front-wheel drive machine, which was pretty revolutionary for its time. The seller has made some serious upgrades, including a new steel radiator, a new exhaust system with a catalytic converter, new front brakes, and fresh tires. In other words, this car is ready to hit the road and keep on rolling. Inside, the headliner is described as immaculate, and the dash is free of any unsightly cracks. That's a big deal for a car of this age, as interior wear and tear can be a real issue. The seller has also installed a new battery, temperature sensor, heater valve, and valve cover gaskets, so you can rest assured that this Toronado has been well maintained. Now let's talk about the fun stuff. This Toronado is loaded with features that were cutting edge back in the day. We're talking power seats, power antenna, power windows, tilt steering wheel, and cruise control. It's like driving a time capsule on wheels. The odometer reads 110,000 miles, which is not bad at all for a car that's been around for over 4 decades. And can we talk about that paint color? This Toronado is rocking an eye-catching orange hue that's sure to make you the talk of the town. Overall, this 1975 Oldsmobile Toronado Brougham seems like a real gem. The seller's description paints a picture of a well-loved and well-maintained classic car that's ready for its next adventure. If you're in the market for a vintage ride with plenty of character and style, this might just be the one for you. 3. We're diving into a real blast from the past that's up for grabs on Craigslist. Get ready to step back in time with a 1959 Rambler American, a classic compact car that's sure to turn heads. First off, let's talk about the price. This Rambler is going for $11,500, which might seem like a pretty penny for a car that's over 6 decades old. But hold on, because this isn't your average classic car. The seller's description is a bit on the brief side, but they do mention that this Rambler is a nice car that runs good. That's always a promising start, especially for a vehicle of this age. Under the hood, you'll find a 302 engine, which is a departure from the original inline-six that would have been in this car when it rolled off the assembly line. The 302 is a popular choice for engine swaps, so it's not surprising to see it here. One interesting feature the seller mentions is the coilovers on the front suspension. This is a modern upgrade that can improve the handling and ride quality of the car. It's always great to see classic cars with thoughtful modifications that enhance the driving experience. The odometer reads 78,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. Of course, it's hard to say for sure if that's the original mileage or if the odometer has rolled over at some point. But either way, it's a good sign that this Rambler has been well cared for over the years. The title status is listed as clean, which is another big plus. A clean title means there are no major issues or discrepancies in the car's history, so you can feel confident in your purchase. Now let's talk about the transmission. This Rambler is equipped with an automatic transmission, which makes it a breeze to drive. No need to worry about shifting gears or working a clutch pedal. Just put it in drive and go. Overall, this 1959 Rambler American seems like a solid classic car with some interesting upgrades. The 302 engine and coilover front suspension are nice touches that set it apart from other Ramblers out there. And while the seller's description is a bit sparse, the low mileage and clean title are definitely points in this car's favor. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to see the vehicle in person and have a trusted mechanic give it a thorough inspection before you make a decision. But based on what we can see here, this Rambler is definitely worth a closer look. 4. We've got a real treat for you on Craigslist. Get ready to fall in love with a 1965 Ford Galaxy 500 convertible that's sure to make your heart skip a beat. First things first, let's talk about the price. This beauty is going for $11,900, which might seem like a pretty penny, but trust me, it's worth every dime. The seller claims the car is in good condition, and based on the description, it sounds like they've put a lot of effort into making this Galaxy shine. Under the hood, you'll find a 352 motor that's original to the car. That's right, this Galaxy has its matching numbers engine, which is a huge plus for collectors and enthusiasts alike. The seller says the car runs great, so you can expect plenty of power and performance from this classic Ford. The odometer shows 99,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car that's over 5 decades old. It's a testament to the care and maintenance this Galaxy has received over the years. Now let's talk about the good stuff. The interior is described as super clean, which is music to any car lover's ears. There's nothing quite like sliding into a classic car with a pristine interior, and it sounds like this Galaxy delivers on that front. The exterior has been treated to a fresh coat of paint, and boy does it look stunning. The seller doesn't specify the exact shade of red, but based on the photos, it's a real head-turner. There's just something about a bright red convertible that screams, classic cool. Of course, no car is perfect, and the seller does mention a couple of things that need attention. The brakes need some work, and there are a few small things that need to be addressed to make this Galaxy fully road-ready. But hey, that's part of the fun of owning a classic car, getting your hands dirty and making it your own. The seller also notes that this Galaxy is rare, and they're not wrong. The Galaxy 500 convertible was a top-of-the-line model back in the day, and finding one in this condition is getting harder and harder. If you're looking for a classic car that's sure to stand out from the crowd, this might just be the one for you. Overall, this 1965 Ford Galaxy 500 convertible seems like a real gem. The matching numbers engine, clean interior, and fresh paint all add up to a car that's sure to turn heads and drop jaws wherever it goes. And while it may need a little bit of work to be fully road-ready, that's all part of the classic car ownership experience. 5. We're diving into a classic American sports car that's up for grabs on Craigslist. Get ready to experience the thrill of a 1985 Chevrolet Corvette, a true icon of the road. First off, let's talk about the price. This Corvette is going for $5,700, which is a pretty attractive deal for a car with such a strong pedigree. The seller doesn't explicitly state the condition of the car, but based on the description, it sounds like it's in good shape overall. Under the hood, you'll find a 350 TPI engine, which is a fuel-injected powerhouse that's sure to get your heart racing. The seller mentions that the engine and transmission were completely rebuilt about 22,000 miles ago, which is a huge plus. A rebuild like that is a significant investment and shows that the previous owner was committed to keeping this Corvette in top form. The transmission is a 4-speed automatic, which is a great choice for those who want the classic Corvette experience without the hassle of a manual gearbox. The seller also notes that the car has new brakes, which is another important factor in keeping this sports car running safely and smoothly. The odometer shows 133,300 miles, which might seem like a lot at first glance. However, it's important to remember that a well-maintained Corvette can easily go the distance. With the recent engine and transmission rebuild, this car has plenty of life left in it. One thing that really stands out about this listing is the paperwork. The seller mentions that they have all the documentation for the engine and transmission rebuild, which is a great sign of transparency. Having a clear record of the work that's been done on a car is always a good thing, and it can provide peace of mind for potential buyers. The seller also notes that the car runs strong, which is exactly what you want to hear when you're considering a classic sports car. A Corvette that's firing on all cylinders and ready to hit the road is a beautiful thing indeed. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to see the vehicle in person and have a trusted mechanic give it a thorough inspection before making a final decision. But based on what we can see here, this 1985 Chevrolet Corvette seems like a solid choice for anyone looking for a classic American sports car with plenty of power and style. The clean title is another big plus, as it indicates that the car has a clear ownership history and no major issues or discrepancies. So there you have it, folks, a 1985 Chevrolet Corvette that's ready to roar into your life and take you on the ride of your dreams. With a strong engine, smooth transmission, and plenty of paperwork to back it up, this car is definitely worth a closer look. Who knows, maybe you'll be the lucky one to take this classic beauty home and experience the thrill of the open road like never before. 6. We've got a real blast from the past. A 1962 Ford Fairlane Coupe that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $5,900. This beauty is a true classic, being the first year the Fairlane was downsized to an intermediate-size car. Under the hood, you'll find the original 221 Ci V8 engine, paired with a 3-speed manual transmission that's been moved to the floor for that extra bit of cool factor. The seller has made some updates, including a new battery, carburetor, rear leaf springs, and exhaust. There's even a set of new rear shocks ready to be installed. Now, I've got to be straight with you. The shifter needs some adjusting and dialing in, as it's a bit tricky to get into gear and shift smoothly. But hey, that's all part of the charm of owning a classic, right? The seller mentions that the Fairlane runs great and drives pretty well, which is a big plus. The glass is all in good condition, so you won't have to worry about any cracks or chips obstructing your view while cruising down the road. As with many classic cars, there are a few areas that need some TLC. The floorboards and trunk have some rust, and the right rear quarter panel needs to be repaired. The original color was a shade of tan, but it looks like it's been painted black at some point. The good news is that the seller is including several extra parts, including a nice Ford hang-under dash AC unit. That's a real score, especially if you plan on driving this beauty during the hot summer months. The tires are also in good shape, so you won't have to worry about replacing them right away. Overall, this 1962 Ford Fairlane Coupe would make a great rat rod project with just a little bit of work. And the best part? You can drive it home. The seller might even be open to some trading, but they're not looking for any junk, so keep that in mind. 7. We're taking a closer look at a 1979 Lincoln Continental that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for just $3,500. This luxury ride from the late 70s is a real head-turner, but it's not without its issues. First off, let's talk about the good stuff. This Continental is powered by a beefy 8-cylinder engine, which is paired with a smooth-shifting automatic transmission. It's a rear-wheel drive car, so you can expect that classic, old-school driving experience. The odometer shows an incredibly low 11,215 miles, which is pretty amazing for a car that's over 40 years old. If that mileage is accurate, this Continental has been very lightly used throughout its life. Now, here's where things get a bit tricky. The seller mentions that the car needs a few things before it can hit the road again. The most notable issue is the Landau top, which is a classic feature of the Continental from this era. It's unclear whether the top is missing entirely or if it just needs to be replaced, but either way, it's something you'll need to address. The carburetor is another area of concern. The seller doesn't provide any details about what's wrong with it, but carburetors can be finicky, especially on older cars. It may need a rebuild or replacement, depending on the severity of the issue. Lastly, the Continental needs a new battery. This is a relatively minor issue in the grand scheme of things, but it's still something you'll need to factor into your budget. The seller does mention that the car ran when it was parked, which is a good sign. However, it's unclear how long ago that was. If the car has been sitting for an extended period, there may be other issues that need to be addressed, such as dried-out seals, deteriorated hoses, and gummed-up fuel lines. Despite these issues, there's still a lot to love about this 1979 Lincoln Continental. It's a classic luxury car with a ton of style and presence. The low mileage is definitely a selling point, assuming it's accurate. And while it does need some work, the asking price of $3,500 seems pretty reasonable for a car of this caliber. If you're handy with tools and don't mind putting in some work to get this Continental back on the road, it could be a really fun project car. Just be sure to budget for the necessary repairs and factor in the cost of any missing parts, like the Landau top. Overall, this 1979 Lincoln Continental is a classic car with a lot of potential. It's not perfect, but it's got a great foundation to build upon. If you're up for a challenge and love the style of the late 70s luxury cars, this Continental is definitely worth checking out. 8. We're diving into the details of a 1956 Chevrolet Bel Air that's currently for sale on Craigslist. This mid-50s icon can be yours for $14,500, and from what the seller tells us, it seems like a pretty solid ride. Under the hood, you'll find a great running 350 engine topped with a 4-barrel carburetor. That's a nice upgrade from the original power plant, and it should provide plenty of pep for cruising around town or hitting the highway. The engine is mated to a 4-speed manual transmission, which is always a fun option for those who love to really drive their classic cars. The seller mentions that the Bel Air has newer brakes and suspension, which is great news. These upgrades should help improve the overall driving experience and make the car safer and more enjoyable to pilot. It's always nice to see classic cars that have been updated with modern components where it counts. One of the most important aspects of any classic car is the condition of the body and chassis. The seller notes that this Bel Air is a solid car and that the floors have been replaced. This is a common area for rust and decay on these old cars, so it's great to know that the floors have been addressed. However, the seller doesn't go into detail about the condition of the rest of the body, so it's worth taking a closer look if you're seriously interested. Another nice touch is the electric fan, which should help keep the engine running cool even in hot weather or when you're stuck in traffic. This is a great modern upgrade that doesn't detract from the classic look of the car. The odometer shows 54,822 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. Of course, it's always possible that the odometer has rolled over or been replaced at some point, so it's worth verifying the actual mileage if you can. Finally, the seller mentions that the car has a clean title, which is always a good thing. You don't want to get stuck with a classic car that has title issues or a sketchy history. Overall, this 1956 Chevrolet Bel Air seems like a pretty solid classic car with some nice upgrades. The 350 engine and 4-speed manual transmission should make it a blast to drive, while the newer brakes, suspension, and electric fan should help improve safety and reliability. The replaced floors are a big plus, but it's worth taking a closer look at the rest of the body to make sure there are no major issues hiding beneath the surface. 9. we've got a real treat for you. A 1973 Lincoln Mark IV that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $9,800. This luxurious coupe has quite the story to tell, as it was recently featured in the Netflix series Griselda. That's right, this car is practically a celebrity. But the Mark IV's star power doesn't end there. The seller tells us that this car is in very clean condition, both inside and out. The interior is described as clean, which is always a big plus for a classic car. You don't want to be sitting on torn or stained seats while you're cruising down the road. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. The seller mentions that a Holley 650 carburetor was just installed, which should help this Lincoln run like a champ. And if that wasn't enough, the transmission has been rebuilt, so you can expect smooth and reliable shifts as you're driving along. One of the coolest features of this Mark IV is the aftermarket pop-up sunroof. The seller notes that it was professionally installed, which is great news. You don't want a shoddy sunroof installation that leaks or causes problems down the line. With this sunroof, you can let the sunshine in and enjoy the breeze while you're out on the road. The seller also mentions that the car has new tires, which is another great selling point. You don't want to be rolling around on bald or worn-out tires, especially on a classic car like this. The new tires should provide plenty of grip and help keep you safe on the road. The odometer shows 87,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. Of course, it's always possible that the odometer has rolled over or been replaced at some point, so it's worth verifying the actual mileage if you can. The Mark IV is finished in a sleek silver paint color that looks great in the photos. The seller doesn't mention any major dents, dings, or rust issues, which is a good sign. However, as with any classic car, it's always worth taking a closer look in person to make sure there are no surprises hiding beneath the surface. Finally, the seller mentions that they're open to trading for an American-made convertible of equal value. So if you've got a ragtop that you're looking to trade, this could be your chance to swap it for a celebrity-status Lincoln. Overall, this 1973 Lincoln Mark IV seems like a really nice classic car with some great features. The celebrity connection is a fun bonus, but the real selling points are the clean interior, rebuilt transmission, new carburetor, and aftermarket sunroof. If you're in the market for a luxurious 70s coupe and have $9,800 to spend, or a convertible to trade, this Mark IV is definitely worth checking out. 10. We've got a real gem for you. A 1970 Mercury Cougar that's currently up for sale on Craigslist for just $7,900. This beauty is being sold as part of an estate sale, which means it's time for someone new to take the reins and give this Cougar the love it deserves. First off, let's talk about the history of this car. The seller mentions that it was senior-owned and purchased new at Black Cat Motors in Burnaby, British Columbia. That's always a good sign, as it suggests the car has been well cared for throughout its life. It's also a BC car, which means it likely hasn't been exposed to the harsh winter conditions that can wreak havoc on classic cars in other parts of the country. Under the hood, you'll find a beefy 351 motor that's paired with a dual exhaust system. This combination should provide plenty of power and a great soundtrack to go along with it. The seller doesn't mention any specific upgrades or modifications to the engine, so it's likely in its original configuration. One of the coolest things about this Cougar is that it comes with a bunch of extra original parts and manuals. This is a huge plus for any classic car enthusiast, as it means you'll have access to all the information you need to keep this beauty running strong for years to come. The seller also mentions that the car comes with a full set of 5 original Cougar hubcaps, which is a really nice touch. Now, let's talk about the condition of this Cougar. The seller describes it as a solid car with just a little bubbling here and there. This suggests that there may be some minor rust issues, which is pretty common for a car of this age. However, the fact that the seller describes it as solid is a good sign, as it means the car likely doesn't have any major structural issues. The interior is described as nice, which is always a plus. You don't want to be sitting on torn or stained seats while you're cruising down the road in your classic Cougar. The seller doesn't provide any photos of the interior, so it's worth asking for some if you're seriously interested in the car. The odometer shows just 35,000 miles, which is incredibly low for a car of this age. Of course, it's always possible that the odometer has rolled over or been replaced at some point, so it's worth verifying the actual mileage if you can. The Cougar is finished in a brown paint color, which looks great in the photos. The seller doesn't mention any major dents, dings, or other cosmetic issues, which is a good sign. However, as with any classic car, it's always worth taking a closer look in person to make sure there are no surprises hiding beneath the surface. Overall, this 1970 Mercury Cougar seems like a really nice classic car with a lot of potential. The low mileage, senior ownership, and inclusion of extra parts and manuals are all big selling points. The minor rust issues and lack of interior photos are worth keeping in mind, but they don't seem like deal breakers based on the seller's description. If you're in the market for a classic Cougar and have $7,900 to spend, this car is definitely worth checking out. 11. We've got a real treat for you, a 1979 Cadillac Coupe de Ville that's sure to turn heads and make you feel like royalty on the road. First off, let's talk about the condition of this beauty. The seller claims it's in excellent shape, and from what we can see, they're not exaggerating. With only 34,000 miles on the odometer, this caddy has been pampered and well maintained. The exterior boasts a stunning two-tone paint job that's sure to catch everyone's eye. And while there are a few minor scratches here and there, there's no denying that this car looks fantastic. The paint is rated an 8 out of 10, which is pretty impressive for a vehicle that's over 40 years old. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 7L V8 engine that purrs like a kitten and roars like a lion when you step on the gas. The seller assures us that there are no leaks and that the car has been regularly serviced to ensure optimal performance. And with a clean title and up-to-date tags, you can hit the road with confidence. Inside, you'll be treated to a luxurious blue leather interior that's just as impressive as the exterior. The seats are plush and comfortable, and the dash is adorned with all the classic Cadillac touches that make these cars so special. Now, let's talk about the price. At $8,000, this Cadillac Coupe de Ville is a steal. Sure, it's not the cheapest car on the market, but when you consider the low mileage, excellent condition, and classic style, it's a bargain. Plus, with a car like this, you're not just buying transportation. You're buying a piece of American history. So, if you're in the market for a classic car that's sure to impress, this 1979 Cadillac Coupe de Ville is definitely worth checking out. With its powerful engine, luxurious interior, and head-turning style, it's a car that will make you feel like a king or queen every time you get behind the wheel. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a piece of automotive history. Head down to Vincent Peppino's and take this beauty for a spin today. 12. We've got a real gem for you, a 1964 Ford Thunderbird that's sure to make your heart skip a beat. This classic beauty is a true representation of the golden era of American automotive design, and it's waiting for a new owner to take it on a journey down memory lane. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this T-Bird. The seller rates it as good, which is a fair assessment. It's not perfect, but it's got a lot of potential. The chrome is very nice, having been replated on the door handles and turning indicators, and there are no dents to speak of. The glass is in pretty good shape too, which is always a plus. Under the hood, you'll find a smooth-running 8-cylinder engine that's sure to provide plenty of power for cruising down the highway. The seller has made some recent upgrades, including new brake drums, pads, master cylinder, booster, and brake lines, as well as a new power steering pump. These updates ensure that this classic ride is ready to hit the road with confidence. Inside, the Thunderbird needs a bit of work. The seller mentions that the headliner and carpet need replacing, but the gauges are all in working order. With a little TLC, the interior could be brought back to its former glory, making this car a true showstopper. Now let's talk about the history of this particular T-Bird. The seller purchased it from the original owner back in 2004, which is a testament to its well-maintained condition. It's a Southern California car, which means it's been spared the harsh winters and road salt that can wreak havoc on classic vehicles. And with a clean title, you can be sure that there are no hidden surprises lurking in this car's past. One thing to note is that the odometer is broken, so the actual mileage is unknown. However, Given the overall condition of the car and the recent upgrades, it's clear that this Thunderbird has been well cared for over the years. At $9,000, this 1964 Ford Thunderbird is priced fairly for a classic car in this condition. While it may not be a perfect show car, it's got a lot of potential and a ton of charm. With a little bit of work, this T-Bird could be a real head-turner at any car show or cruise-in. So, if you're in the market for a classic American car with a lot of character, this 1964 Ford Thunderbird is definitely worth a look. It's a piece of automotive history that's just waiting for a new owner to take it on a journey down memory lane. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a true icon of the 1960s. Give the seller a call and schedule a test drive today. 13. We've got a real treat for you. A 1965 Ford Thunderbird convertible that's just waiting for a new owner to give it the love and attention it deserves. First off, let's talk about the condition of this classic beauty. The seller rates it as fair, which means it's not perfect, but it's got a lot of potential. The paint has a few chips here and there, but overall, it's not too shabby. The interior, on the other hand, is very clean, which is a big plus for a car of this age. Under the hood, you'll find a 390 engine that's been overhauled just 6 years ago. The seller reports that it runs great, which is music to any car enthusiast's ears. And with 4 new tires, this T-Bird is ready to hit the road in style. Now, let's talk about some of the issues with this car. The seller mentions that the convertible top doesn't raise or lower, and the windows don't work properly. These are common problems with classic cars, and they'll need to be addressed by the new owner. But don't let that discourage you. With a little bit of work, this T-Bird could be a real showstopper. One thing to note is that the odometer has rolled over, so the actual mileage is unknown. However, given the overall condition of the car and the recent engine overhaul, it's clear that this Thunderbird has been well maintained over the years. At $14,000, this 1965 Ford Thunderbird convertible is priced fairly for a classic car in this condition. While it may not be a perfect show car, it's got a lot of potential and a ton of charm. With a little bit of elbow grease and some TLC, this T-Bird could be a real head-turner at any car show or cruise-in. The seller admits that they don't have the patience or time to finish off this beautiful car, which means it's up to the new owner to take on the challenge. But if you're up for a project and you've got a love for classic American cars, this 1965 Ford Thunderbird convertible is definitely worth considering. So if you're in the market for a classic convertible with a lot of character, this 1965 Ford Thunderbird is definitely worth a look. It may not be perfect, but it's got a lot of heart and a ton of potential. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a piece of automotive history. Give the seller a call and schedule a test drive today. 14. We've got a real gem for you, a 1955 Plymouth Savoy that's sure to make your heart skip a beat. This classic beauty is a rare find, especially in such good condition, and it's waiting for a new owner to take it on a journey down memory lane. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this Savoy. The seller describes it as very clean and original, which is a testament to its well-preserved state. It's a California car, which means it's been spared the rust and corrosion that can plague vehicles from other parts of the country. The seller also notes that there are no rust issues or bondo, which is a huge plus for a car of this age. The paint is old and has some scratches, but the seller says it still shines up nicely. This is a good indication that the car has been well cared for over the years. And speaking of care, the seller has a folder full of receipts documenting all the maintenance that's been done on this Savoy. The suspension and brakes have been rebuilt with all new bushings, which means this car is ready to hit the road with confidence. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine that fires right up and purrs like a kitten. The seller reports that it shifts smoothly through all the gears and drives straight down the road. The brakes are also in good working order, which is always a plus for a classic car. Inside, the original AM radio is still working, which is a cool throwback to the 1950s. The carpet has been removed, but the seller has the sill plates, which could be reinstalled if desired. And if you're looking to hot rod this Savoy, the seller notes that it has a full frame from front to rear, with an 834 rear end, making it a great candidate for a Hemi or other Chrysler V8 engine swap. At $11,500, this 1955 Plymouth Savoy is priced fairly for a classic car in this condition. It's a rare find, especially as a two-door model, and it's got a lot of potential for the right buyer. Whether you want to keep it original or hot rod it, this Savoy is a great starting point. One thing to note is that the seller is open to trades for an excavator. So if you've got heavy equipment lying around and you're in the market for a classic car, this could be your chance to make a deal. Overall, this 1955 Plymouth Savoy is a great find for any classic car enthusiast. It's got a clean title, a solid body, and a well-maintained drivetrain. With a little bit of TLC, this car could be a real showstopper at any car show or cruise-in. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a piece of automotive history. Give the seller a call and schedule a test drive today. 15. We've got a real treat for you. A 1969 Ford LTD formal sedan that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is being offered at $8,500, and let me tell you, it's got quite a story behind it. First off, can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that this LTD has been owned by the same family for 35 years? That's right. The current owner is only the second person to have the keys to this classic ride. It was originally purchased by the owner's mother way back in November 1968, and it's clear that it's been cherished ever since. Now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. This LTD is powered by a beefy 428 V8 engine, paired with an FMX automatic transmission. It's got all the goodies you'd expect from a high-end sedan of its era, including factory dual exhaust, AC, power steering, a deluxe rim blow steering wheel, power disc brakes, an AM/FM radio, an electric clock, and even a power seat. Plus, it's got some sweet handling upgrades like factory front and rear sway bars and a factory rear panhard rod. But here's the really impressive part. The current owner has gone all out in terms of maintenance and upgrades over the past 2 years. We're talking about a new or remanufactured engine, transmission, front suspension, complete steering system, brakes, rear differential, axles, starter, water pump, mufflers, carpet, seat belts, tires, and weather strips. And that's just the highlight reel. It's clear that no expense has been spared in keeping this LTD in top shape. And can we talk about the color combo for a second? Brittany blue iridium exterior with a black vinyl top and interior. It's a classic look that never goes out of style. The seller also mentions that the body is in perfect condition, with no rust anywhere. That's a real rarity for a car of this age. The ad also notes that the LTD runs and drives smoothly, which is exactly what you want to hear. And as a bonus, it comes with the original owner's manual and dealer sales brochure. How cool is that? Now I know what you might be thinking, but wait, 132,000 miles is a lot for a classic car. And you're not wrong. But here's the thing. With all the work that's been put into this LTD over the past couple of years, it's practically a new car under the hood. Plus, the fact that it's been in the same family for so long is a testament to how well it's been cared for over the years. So, if you're in the market for a classic American sedan with a ton of character and a whole lot of heart, this 1969 Ford LTD might just be the one for you. With a clean title in hand and a price tag of $8,500, it's a deal that's hard to beat. But don't just take my word for it. Go check it out for yourself and see if it's the right fit for you. 16. We're diving into the world of classic American muscle with a 1963 Ford Fairlane 500 that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is being offered at $15,000, and it's definitely worth taking a closer look at. First off, let's talk about the heart of this beast. A V8 engine paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. There's just something about the combination of a powerful engine and a manual gearbox that gets the blood pumping. Am I right? The seller mentions that the car runs well, which is always a good sign. Now it's worth noting that the car has been sitting in the seller's garage for the last 6 months. While that might raise some eyebrows, it's not necessarily a deal breaker. Sometimes life gets in the way and projects get put on the back burner. The important thing is that the car has been stored properly and hasn't been exposed to the elements. Moving on to the exterior, This Fairlane is rocking a classic white paint job. The seller doesn't go into too much detail about the condition of the paint or body, so it's hard to say for sure what kind of shape it's in. However, given the age of the car, it's probably safe to assume that there might be some imperfections or signs of wear and tear. But hey, that's part of the charm of owning a classic car, right? One thing that really caught my eye in the ad is that the seller is including a disc brake conversion kit with the sale. That's a pretty sweet bonus, especially if you're planning on driving the car regularly. Disc brakes are a big upgrade over the original drum brakes that these cars came with, and they can really improve the overall driving experience. The seller also mentions that the car has a clean California title, which is always a good thing. However, it's currently registered as non-operational. That means that you'll need to go through the process of getting it registered and insured before you can hit the road. But hey, that's just part of the fun of owning a classic car, right? Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the price. $15,000 is definitely on the higher end for a Fairlane 500, especially one that's been sitting for a while and might need some work. However, the inclusion of the disc brake conversion kit does add some value, and the fact that it's a V8 with a manual transmission is definitely a selling point for a lot of enthusiasts. The seller also mentions that they're open to trades, which could be an interesting option if you've got another classic car that you're looking to part with. Just keep in mind that they're not interested in boats or bikes. They're looking for something else to have fun with on four wheels. Overall, this 1963 Ford Fairlane 500 seems like a solid choice for someone who's looking for a classic American muscle car with a bit of a project. It's got a strong drivetrain, a clean title, and a few bonus features that sweeten the deal. Just be prepared to put in some work to get it back on the road and looking its best. And if you do decide to take the plunge, be sure to let us know how it goes. We'd love to see this beauty back out on the road where it belongs. 17. We've got a real gem for you. A 1972 Cadillac DeVille that's currently for sale on Craigslist. This beauty is being offered at $14,000, and let me tell you, it's got all the makings of a dream car. First off, can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that this DeVille is all original? That's right, folks. This car is a true time capsule. It's got zero rust, no rips, and no visible damage. That's a real rarity for a car that's almost 50 years old. But it's not just the exterior that's in great shape. The seller also mentions that there are no mechanical issues with this DeVille. That's a testament to the quality of Cadillac engineering and the care that this car has received over the years. It's clear that this car has been loved and cherished by its previous owners. Now let's talk about the specs. This DeVille is powered by a gas engine, no surprise there, and has an automatic transmission. It's got just over 56,000 miles on the odometer, which is incredibly low for a car of this age. That means that this car has a lot of life left in it, and it's ready to be enjoyed by its next owner. The white paint job is classic Cadillac, and it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. There's just something about a big, bold, white Cadillac that screams luxury and sophistication. And with a clean title, you can be sure that this car is ready to be transferred to its new owner without any hassles. Now, I know what you might be thinking. $14,000 is a lot of money for a car that's almost 50 years old. And you're not wrong. But here's the thing. This DeVille is a rare find. It's all original. It's in excellent condition, and it's got low mileage. Cars like this don't come around very often, and when they do, they're usually snapped up quickly by collectors and enthusiasts. The seller also mentions that they're not interested in trades or low ballers. They know what they've got, and they're not willing to let it go for less than it's worth. And honestly, I can't blame them. A car like this is a true treasure, and it deserves to be valued accordingly. So, if you're in the market for a classic Cadillac that's in incredible condition, this 1972 DeVille might just be the one for you. It's got all the style and sophistication that you'd expect from a Cadillac, and it's got the originality and low mileage that collectors dream about. Just be prepared to act fast. The seller mentions that the post will be deleted after the car is sold, so you don't want to miss your chance. We're at 18. We've got a real treat for you. A gorgeous 1964 Buick Riviera that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is being offered at $15,000, and let me tell you, it's worth every penny. First off, can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that this Riviera is in incredible condition for its age? The seller mentions that it has no rust, which is a real rarity for a car that's almost 60 years old. That's a testament to the quality of Buick engineering and the care that this car has received over the years. But it's not just the exterior that's in great shape. The interior is also very nice, with no tears or worn spots in the seats. There are a couple of small cuts in the headliner, but that's to be expected in a car of this age. Overall, the interior is a real-time capsule that's sure to transport you back to the 1960s. Now let's talk about the heart of this beast, the original nailhead engine. This 425 cubic inch Wildcat 465 V8 produced a whopping 340 horsepower when it was new, and the seller mentions that they don't think the engine has ever been out of the car. That's incredible for a car that's been around for 60 years. The fact that it still runs and drives pretty well is a real testament to the quality of Buick engineering. The seller also mentions that the car was painted pearl white a few years ago, but it has been sitting inside and not driven much since then. That means that the paint is likely in great condition, and it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. Now, there is one small mystery about this Riviera. The odometer shows 78,192 miles, but the seller isn't sure if it's actually 178,192 miles. However, given the overall condition of the car, it's clear that it has been well maintained regardless of the actual mileage. The seller also mentions that this car belonged to their brother, who was in the Navy and only drove it when he was in town. That means that this Riviera has likely spent a lot of its life in storage, which is great news for its overall condition. Overall, this 1964 Buick Riviera is a real gem that's sure to make any car enthusiast weak in the knees. With its incredible condition, original engine, and classic style, it's a car that's worth every penny of its $15,000 asking price. And with a clean title, you can be sure that this car is ready to be transferred to its new owner without any hassles. 19. We've got a real blast from the past for you. A 1970 Pontiac Executive that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $5,000. This classic beauty has been sitting in a garage for years, waiting for someone to give it the love and attention it deserves. Now, I've got to be straight with you. The seller admits that the car is in fair condition, and the running condition is unknown. It's been off the road for a while, so it might need some work to get it purring like a kitten again. The odometer reads 100,000 miles, but it's broken, so the actual mileage could be higher. The body is in okay shape considering its age, but the interior needs some TLC. It's got a few rough spots, but hey, that's part of the charm of owning a classic car, right? You get to put your own personal touch on it and make it truly yours. Under the hood, you'll find a beefy 8-cylinder engine that's ready to roar to life. This Pontiac Executive is a rear-wheel drive machine, so you know it's built for some serious cruising. The transmission is automatic, so you can sit back and enjoy the ride without worrying about shifting gears. The car comes with a clean title, so you won't have any hassles when it comes to paperwork. And that green paint job? It's a real head-turner. You'll be the talk of the town when you roll up in this vintage stunner. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But wait. If it's been sitting for so long, won't it need a ton of work? Well, that's the beauty of a project car, my friend. You get to roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, and bring this classic back to its former glory. And trust me, when you're cruising down the street in your fully restored 1970 Pontiac Executive, all that hard work will be worth it. So what are you waiting for? This is a rare opportunity to own a piece of American automotive history. The seller is asking $5,000, but they're open to offers. If you've got the skills and the passion to take on this project, then don't hesitate. Make an offer and make this Pontiac Executive yours today. 20. We've got a real gem to talk about, a 1979 Lincoln Town Car that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at $12,000, and from what the seller tells us, it's in pretty much like-new condition. Can you believe it? Now, I know what you might be thinking. A car that's over 40 years old in like-new condition? Seems too good to be true, right? But hear me out. The seller seems really sincere about this ride. They've provided a detailed description that makes me think they're not trying to pull a fast one on us. First off, let's talk about what's under the hood. This Lincoln is packing a V8 engine and an automatic transmission, which is exactly what you'd expect from a classic American luxury car. And get this, the seller says everything works perfectly. We're talking AC, cruise control, windows, power antenna, even the Cartier clock. That's some serious attention to detail. The seller also mentions that the car has been well maintained throughout its life. While they don't know the full history, they're convinced that everything on this Lincoln is original. That's a big deal for collectors and enthusiasts who value authenticity. Now let's talk about the condition. The seller says the paint is in great shape, with a thickness of 70-80 microns. There are no bubbles or rust to be found. The interior is also very clean, with no stains or rips. And get this, the seller just dropped a cool $1,000 on a hand polish and ceramic coat. Talk about dedication. The only minor issue mentioned is some paint chips on the front, but the seller is upfront about that and even provides pictures. Gotta respect that honesty. Overall, this 1979 Lincoln Town Car seems like an incredible find. With only 58,000 miles on the odometer, it's got plenty of life left in it. The seller even says they wouldn't hesitate to drive it cross-country. That's a pretty bold statement, but it just goes to show how much faith they have in this car. So, if you're in the market for a classic luxury ride that's been well-maintained and cherished, this Lincoln might just be the one for you. The seller seems genuinely passionate about the car, and their attention to detail is impressive. Just keep in mind that the miles might go up a bit, as the seller still enjoys driving it from time to time. But hey, can you blame them? There you have it, folks. A 1979 Lincoln Town Car that's ready for its next adventure. What do you think? Is this the classic car of your dreams?